Hi, this is Dan Sullivan. I'd like to welcome you to the Multiplier Mindset Podcast. So in the Multiplier Mindset that we're doing, we have a constant series of interviews with very, very successful strategic coach entrepreneurs at all levels of the program, signature level, 10 times level, and now the new game changer. And this time we have a wonderful, insightful interview with Joe Posillico. The story that Joe Posillico gave us when we interviewed him points out a number of really, really great insights. And I think these insights are applicable to every entrepreneur who's in Strategic Coach. And that is that Joe discovered what his unique ability really is. Okay, and that is he discovered that it wasn't so much growing his company from the inside by doing a lot of how and overlooking general contracting work. He's got a really great engineering company, but he's got a lot of other very much related businesses to general engineering. And he thought, he had to do the engineering work and it was all about getting the engineering projects done. And what he immediately discovered over a period of time of just focusing on his own unique ability, that what he was really great as doing deals to actually acquire new capabilities to add to the overall engineering capabilities, and these would be specialties. And what that did is that it allowed him to take like a 10,000-foot view of his business so that he was working on his business rather than working in his business. And that's an old phrase that comes from the E-Myth. This was the topic of a book many years ago, 25 years ago, called the E-Myth, that the most successful entrepreneurs in the world are those who work on their businesses, not work in their businesses. So in Joe's case, he brought really great people in to actually run the business. And then his role is to see where he can acquire other companies who have specialties that make his engineering firm and construction firm much more powerful in the marketplace. And this has freed him up just to every day be in his unique ability. It seems a very simple thing to say, but you have to have the willingness to get out of the how in your business and get into the who. So every new company that Joe acquires and he and his firm bring in to the network of companies that are working under the same company, he's bringing in a who knows how to do the how in a particular area. So immediately there's a huge jump in capability in his overall engineering firm. But not only that, but he's getting simple in the middle. So even though there's this expansion and they're multiplying the capabilities of the whole firm, nevertheless, Joe feels simpler and simpler because he spends every day just doing what he loves doing and then is surrounded by other very skilled who's who take care of all the how.
My name is Joe Posillico III. I'm in a family business that started in 1946. We have about 7 different business lines that do anywhere from heavy construction work to sewer plant work to wastewater plants to environmental remediation. We have a gas company, we have a materials business, and then we also do negotiated bid work for private clients. So we do a bunch of different things, and Strategic Coach I've been involved with now for 2 years. This is my 3rd season or 3rd year. And when I first came, I was a little confused about how the program went, and now I think I have a good understanding of how things work at Strategic Coach, and I'm excited to come up here on a quarterly basis to figure out how to not only fix any issues in my business, but also fix myself personally. Our material business is going to be doubled in size probably by the end of year 3 and a half, and that's our most profitable business. It was a huge shift because before I was more in the construction business, they call it your boots were getting dirty every day. I was on the ground, and I changed and I became more in acquisitions for material businesses. So I changed completely my thought process of how I spend my time, and it's really paid dividends personally and financially for the business and my partners. So I've really had a very good journey with Strategic Coach thus far. was a little rocky in the beginning, and year 3, I'm really feeling very positive about what the potential is. I think it's the process here at Strategic Coach. In the beginning, it felt very unreachable, and I was confused about how to do it. And basically, coming up here on a quarterly basis and writing down my goals, it's pretty amazing because at the end of a year, all those goals were accomplished. So I just basically wrote down what I wanted to accomplish, and then things started happening. And to be honest, I really only use probably 10 to 25% of the tools for Strategic Coach. I'm just learning how to use the tools. But basically, I just focused on simple things. From a personal side, my kids, I'm 10 times more closer with than in 1 year. So that in itself is a huge benefit to the program. My youngest son never played hockey before, and then he made a travel hockey team. And we wrote down the goals, and we went down it with everything. And me and him are like, now we have actually real communication, whereas before it was, I'd say, more of just where I wasn't really present. There was no connection. And Strategic Coach has created that connection. And I got 3 of the kids. I'm working on the 4th one now. But that's been, I think, my proudest thing. Because of the tools I've used as Strategic Coach, I've really changed my thought process and how I get things done and take action. Part of that was understanding the gap. Year 1, I did not understand the gap. And then I went to Chicago for a golden ticket. And when I went to Chicago, I learned what the gap was. And then when I was there, I was like, I'm in the gap all the time. And then I realized that was what was holding me back with personally dealing with my kids and personally dealing with certain things. And then I realized that I was always pointing out why they didn't do something the right way. And one example is pretty funny is that my daughter would always play soccer, unbelievable soccer player. But at the end of the game, I was like, what about that one play that you didn't throw it in the right way? And then the tears would fly. And I was just like, I'm just knocking her in the gap every time. And I realized that I did that not only with my kids, I did it with my friends, I did it with work, I did it with myself. That was one of the biggest things I realized in the first year. And now the second year was more about business and continue on growing personally with the other things that I was working on. Our business, to explain it very quickly, is there's a component of general contracting. General contracting business is a lower margin business. Typically, average across the board is about 2 to 4% for general contracting businesses. But we actually go do the work. We go build the projects. My primary role was on the general contracting side in making sure that the field operations and safety requirements were met. So what I realized is that our material business, which was about 10 to 15% of our business, was 5 to 7 times the percentage of profit of the contracting side of the business. I've enjoyed both businesses, but I realized that I had to move away from the general contracting business and focus on our material businesses in order to move the company in the right direction. And it was a very difficult change because I have 2 partners and I'm a 33% partner in the business, and they were very suspect on what I was doing. I spent a year focusing on expanding our material businesses, which one of our other partners, who is my brother, runs. And subsequently, by focusing in on those businesses, I've been able to double the size of those businesses essentially within a 3 to 4 year window. Now my main focus is business development and acquisitions, which was completely different from what I was primarily doing. And it's paid huge dividends for the company. And I've really enjoyed the process of doing that. And it's part of what I've learned is my unique ability in going in that direction. So my main focus has been expanding our material businesses. And I would have never thought to do that. I was grinding it out on the general contracting side, which was beneficial to the company, but it was really wearing me because I was spending 6 hours a day in the car, driving around checking on people. It was good usage of my time, but it was really taking the life out of me between my family and even at work. I wasn't able to give as best as I could to help the company be more successful. And Coach really made me realize what direction I had to focus on and still do the things that I was good on the general contracting side, but delegate and find the right people to do the tasks on the general contracting side, which we have done, and now focus in on expanding the company in different direction. And now I'm looking at expanding the general contracting divisions with a new way of looking at things. So instead of doing a 2 to 4% margin, we're looking to get a 6 to 8% margin of the general contracting business. So that's my new focus this year, and expanding the material businesses. So I've really changed my whole philosophy on how I was operating the business, and it's really been eye-opening and really changed how everything in the way my business life is. And I think that I can attribute it to the success to being involved with Coach, definitely. We had talked about expanding the material businesses, and we have one facility that manufactures asphalt and recycles asphalt, very successful. I found another facility for the company, and my partners were working on it for 2 years, and I said to myself, hey, they said the deal wasn't going to work. I went in there, I spent 6 months of nonstop, relentless focus on getting the deal done, and we ended up closing a $20 million acquisition. And when we got it done, I was like, I couldn't believe that it happened. And I think that was one point where I realized that if I focus on something, it's going to happen. And we ended up closing the deal. It was a difficult deal to close. It took me 6 months of my time. It was the biggest acquisition in the company's history. My partners had always said, we're not going to be able to get the money to do this. And I always said to Dan, I said, my partners keep saying, we're never going to get the money. He said, don't worry about it. He said, focus on what you need to focus on, and things will take care of themselves. When we focused on it, we went to the bank. I brought them to our current facility. The bank opened the bank up, and they gave us a $15 million loan to buy the business and to buy the property. Everything worked out perfectly. It was all my focus on getting the deal done and getting something that I'd never done before. It was, I think at that point, I realized if I can do this, I can do anything. I think that was a big turning point. And I was so excited when I came to Coach the next time. I told Dan what happened, and he looked at me, he's like, well, what are we doing next? So now I kind of look at things in a different lens. I really look at ways I can help not only myself, but my partners, the people working for the business, to try and expand the business and make everyone have the entrepreneurial mindset. And I'm looking at doing things personally too, on the entrepreneurial side too, I think now. That's coming up next. I think that's going to be year 3, where I have some personal things I want to get accomplished and starting some business maybe on my own. Like right now, I feel like I can get 10 times done in 10 years from a financial standpoint. I think I got 10 times done in 1 year from a personal standpoint. And I think by the end of next year, I'll be close to 20 times from a personal standpoint. And I just wrote it down today, actually. And the guy sitting next to me was a good friend of mine, Bruce Trimble. He's a dentist, and we talk once a month. We have our own strategic call, and I break his shoes, and he breaks my shoes. So not only am I a strategic coach, I found people that I'm aligned with, maybe in different industries, and we call each other, we help each other, and we push each other to be better. And it was really good, because he was looking at my piece of paper, and he was like, what was that? And I'm like, well, that's what we're going for. And I really believe after 3 years, I think my yearly income is going to triple, actually. And that's, I'd say, a good portion of that is being part of the program. And I think that what's good about strategic coach is everyone has a good attitude up here. And that was one of the things. My father's no longer with us, but he ran the business, and it was all about having the right attitude. He always said that he was more like he should have been a psychiatrist in running the business, and he was really a builder, but he was a micromanager. So I'm using the things that I've learned from my father, but to be more of a thinker and not just a micromanager, really to be a better person along the way. As far as people in the construction business, they really know how to plan to do a job. So if they have the understanding of how to plan, when you plan to do a job the right way, when you bid the job right way, and then you plan to complete the job the right way, the job gets done on schedule, and you meet your budgets and your goals. Construction people get tied up in that whole process. And what strategic coach does, helps you plan your whole life. And it sets you up so that you can really live a different type of life than you're living now. Because most construction people are tied to their companies, and they're more in the micromanagement stage, which is what I learned, how I learned the business. And I think strategic coach makes you think about things differently. In today's construction world, with so many different safety regulations and insurance requirements, you really need to get out ahead of your business. And I think strategic coach provides you with the tools to be successful and use your planning to plan your life and your business. And that will make everything in your life easier down the road by working with strategic coach, so you understand how to plan life.
Joe tells a story about lining up a bigger and better project in the future, in which he got a lot of pushback from individuals in his own company. And that's to be expected, because the individuals who are doing the work in the company can't see how you can take on anything more, okay? But the job of an entrepreneur is to, first of all, establish a bigger and better project. In this case, it was the biggest project, biggest acquisition that his company had never had, and there wasn't belief within the company that this could be done, but he did it in 6 months. And part of the reason is because he wrote the whole thing down, he put the whole thing into an impact filter, and he was very clear right from the beginning what his role. Things that are difficult for companies to pull off, the reason for that is that the lead entrepreneur doesn't clarify the what and why to everybody else in the company, and then doesn't draw back and get other people to do the how work on this. So now he has enormous confidence because, first of all, he had to go through commitment and courage, and now he's got a new capability. Okay, this is the biggest deal that Joe has ever pulled off, but now it's the baseline for even bigger deals. So his confidence has jumped to a whole new level because his capability has jumped to a whole new level, and it's inspired everybody in his company to know that when Joe says we're going after a bigger, better expansion and a bigger and better acquisition in the marketplace, they now know that Joe's going to pull it off, and that's another capability. And he'll have less pushback with the next one because everybody in the company knows whatever Joe puts his mind to, whatever he writes down on a sheet of paper, this is going to happen. One of the most powerful things that Joe said in his interview was the power of writing things down. Joe came into the 10 times program right from the beginning, and one of the thinking processes that we start each day off and finish each day off in the 10 times program is called the moving future, where you write down what you achieved in the last 90 days. That's your morale, raises the morale because you're really proud about the winning achievements. Then in the middle, you have what's happening right now, what's got energy, what's got movement in your company, and this is momentum. And then in the third part of it is motivation, and that's what's bigger and better on the outside. And at the end of this, there are 5 big breakthroughs for every quarter. At the end of the day, 8 hours of thinking, writing, discussing, there's 5 big achievements, which we then transform into impact filters where he can immediately communicate with everybody in his company what the 5 big achievements. And what Joe tells us is every quarter I get those 5 achievements done because if I write it down, I do it. So I can't overemphasize the power of taking the thoughts out of your brain, writing them down on paper, and then with the special tool that we have in Strategic Coach, the impact filter, that you actually have a way of communicating exactly to other people the what and the why you want to achieve in a bigger and better way over the next 90 days, and everybody on your team immediately understands, and they can take their skills and they can direct them toward your 5 big projects for every quarter. So much out of this one interview that's almost like a textbook for every other entrepreneur in the world if you want to grow and continually expand, multiplying the impact of your company while simplifying your activity in the center of that company. Your movement personally as the entrepreneur at the center of the program towards something bigger and better has the impact of actually energizing everybody else in the company in the sense that they say, we can always depend, in the case of the interview, Joe, we can always depend on Joe for going towards something bigger and better. There isn't an end that we're going to get to where there is actually enough. And he would say that his life is actually enormously more enjoyable and a great deal simpler as a result of going through these big projects than if he had just stuck with what they were doing before. So the whole role of an entrepreneur is to constantly be putting the emphasis on growth of the company in new, bigger, and better ways. And that will become understood by everybody in your company that that's your role in the company and that's your unique ability and that's what you're always going to be doing. I'd just like to finish off the interview with Joe Posillico by directing us to the really, really great resource that we have, which is called the impactfilter.coach.